Hello and welcome back to today's segment on further maths. And today we'll be continuing our solving in vectors, in calculations and vectors. But before that, I would like us to do a quick review of our last lesson. Okay, thank you. Now let's say a unit vector. Let's just continue our solving. Let's do this example 4. Said find the unit vector in the direction of the following vectors. So we now have R to be equal to I plus 3j. I have Q to be equal 4i minus 5j. Now we want to get the unit vector in the direction of R. So the first thing we need to do now is let's get the magnitude of R. R magnitude is equal to, remember the rule or modulus, 2 square plus 3 square, which is equal to square root of 4 plus 9, which is equal to square root of 13. So the unit vector of this becomes equal to R all over. It's just the same thing that we've been solving over R magnitude, which is equal to R originally is 2i plus 3j all over root 13. That's just it. That's all. So if you want to do that of Q, you do Q is equal to 4 square plus minus 5 square. You place a square root of it, which is equal to square root of 16 plus 25, and is equal to the square root of 41. So this is so the unit vector will now be equal to Q all over Q modulus, which is equal to, our value of Q was what? 4i minus 5j all over modulus Q is 41. I think that's it for a unit vector. Now let's proceed. If, I think this example 5, if P is equal to 2i minus 3j and Q is equal to 3i plus 5j, R is equal I plus j. These are three vectors. Now find the values of A. This is what we are looking for. 2p plus Q plus 3r. B, 3p minus 2q. Now let's start with the first one, A. We need to look for 2p, 2 times p. So 2p is 2 times 2 is 4i minus 2 times 3, 6j. This is our value of 2p. Plus our Q, we just put it as 3i plus 5j. Plus we have our 3r. These are 2p. Then our 3r becomes 3i plus 3j. Now let's add. This is the value of our 3r, 2p, and this is the value of our q. Now let's add and get our value. Now remember, when you're adding vectors, you only add vectors of equal component. 4i plus 3i is 7i, plus another 3i, you have 10i. Now we now have minus 6 plus 5 is minus 1. Minus 1 plus 3 is plus 2. It's plus 2j. So you can just do the value of 2p, so therefore 2p plus q plus 3r is equal to 10i plus 2j, which is so clear and straight. Now let's do for the second one. We are looking for 3p minus 2q. Let's go for 3p. 3 times 2 is 6, which is 6i. That's 3 times 2 is 6. So we now have 6i minus 3 times 3, 9j. So this is a value of what? 3p. Then minus let's do that of 2q. I mean 2 times 3 is 6i. Then 2 times 5, 10 plus 10j, and this is our value for 2q. So if you do this, you now have 6 minus 6, which is 0, minus 9 plus 10, which is 1. So our value is 1j, that can be written as j. So the value of 3p minus 2q is equal to j. So you can see how straight and forward it is in performing this type of addition of vector, especially when you multiply it with a scalar component, just a value. So I would like us to get angles between vectors. Angles between vectors. Now when you talk about angles between vectors, now the best way to get between vectors is you use the slope of the lines. You make use of the slope of the lines in getting that. So if you're given two vectors, to check the angle between them, get the slope, then you apply the formula. We've stated it before now, that the formula for angle between two vectors is this, equals m2 minus m1 all over 1 plus m1 m2 modulus. Now let me show you something. The values you're seeing here is called an absolute value, so it can never be minus. That is why two straight lines are used. So even if you have a minus sign, you take the positive value of it in performing your calculation. So that's the essence of putting this, the sign of absolute. So you don't make use of, even if you have, after getting tan and you have minus 7, your answer is 7, the absolute value. That's a positive value of whatever thing. But if you have plus 7, is 7. But if you have minus 7, you convert it to plus 7. That's the essence of having the absolute sign. Let us just try one question under this. Let's say find the angle between x plus 4y equals 12 and y minus 2x plus 6 equals 0. Now look at the first thing. Remember, the equation of a line goes this way: y is equal to mx plus c. So we are interested in getting our m. In the two, we call this m1 and call this the m2. So our interest is just in getting the value of our m. If we can get m, we name the m of this as m1, m2, put it into this equation and solve. So for that, let's transform this equation into this form. So by taking x to this other side. Now in equation 1, which is this, let's deal with this. We now have 4y to be equal to 12 minus x. We just took x to this side, becomes minus. So the value of our y will now be equal to 12 over 4. Then we now have minus x over 4, which can further be written as 1 over 4 x, that is minus 1 over 4x, then plus 3. Because minus 1 over 4 is the same thing as minus x over 4. X, I just put it aside to take this format so that I know that our slope is m. Whatever thing that is attached to x is our slope. So we now have this plus 3. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So our m1 here now, that makes our m1 to be equal to minus 1 over 4. Now let's look for our m2. We repeat the same thing by taking this other 2. We now have for the second part, number 2, we have y to be equal to 2x, because if this 2 minus 2 crosses over to this side, becomes 2x minus 6. You can see with this it is already in this form, so the value of our m2 is equal to what? 2, because it's a term that is attached to x. Now let's apply them in this equation. We have tan hyphen to be equal to our m2 is 2 minus 1 over 4 all over 1 plus minus 1 over 4 times 2. Remember, it's an absolute value. So with this now will give you 9 over 4 all over 1 over 2. So you now have 4.5. So the value of our angle will now be the tan inverse of 4.5, which is equal to 77.47 degrees. So the angle between this line and this line is equal to 77.47 degrees. I would like to say a very big thank you for being part of today's lesson. But in order for you to refresh your memory on the concepts that just have been taught, I would like you to take the test that will be coming shortly on the screen. Do well to use the lesson notes on the platform for a better information on the topic we've discussed. So thank you and see you in our next lesson.